we will actually discuss the match at hand, our first one, the LA Gladiators versus the New York Excelsior. I guess it's time to do our job, Matt. I don't know.
I can see Mitch's face. He's just so disappointed that he thought that Gwangbung was a tank player for New York. But no, it was Yagpung. Yeah, and you know, we've seen him a few times. He's not in this game today. It'll be Kellen for New York. So I like a lot of the players individually on New York. I just don't think they work really well together. I think that's the problem. I think you put a lot of these players in different situations, and they're probably pretty good, pretty fine.
Well, let's look at the team that is succeeding at the current moment.
Yeah.
It is the LA Gladiators starters. Of course, you have some awards going around too. Reiner, I know, is in a big discussion for Rookie of the Year. Kepster and Shu have been officially nominated for MVP of the year. They're undefeated currently in this stage and are on the rise. Big fan of this team.
Yeah, and they've kind of started to right the ship a little bit, where actually that starting lineup was they had Funny Astro, and it'd actually be skewed in the starting lineup today, which it looks like. So you won't see any Lucio play here. They'll probably play some other different kind of compositions. But yeah, I think this team has like really gotten through the tough part of the season, where they went through a really tough stretch there in the Summer Showdown. I mean, they did not look good at all. I think Reiner giving him like a little bit of a break towards the end there, I think was fine. I think they're trying to do some dance running through the back of the cameras here. I don't know what it was. It looked like a terrible attempt at like the gritty. Yeah, it looked like a really bad gritty attempt. Yeah, I mean.
Oh, there he goes.
Yeah, I think it actually is just a long-range gritty there from Reiner. But I think giving him the break, though, was huge. That meta wasn't gelling for them. He didn't seem to really be kind of feeling it. Giving him a little bit of a break, a little bit of a reset, I think is huge, because you need him to play really well here towards the end of the season.
Well, he's all smiles, and even though that meta didn't suit Reiner, that kind of recency bias put it into a lot of people's heads that, oh, should he really be Rookie of the Year? But he clearly can flex to any meta. Kind of that same common factor with Kellen, who is a main tank that New York have to depend on, and the only tank. No other people at the desk are mentioning. Let's look at those New York starters. The same as usual. Unfortunately, though, they officially cannot qualify into play-ins. They only have 3 matches left, and it felt like their season was just starting to ramp up. You know, they had that win over Toronto in that first match, and that was a statement considering Toronto had a lot of success at the Summer Showdown, but it's been kind of downhill since then.
You know, even though Mitch, the Gwangbun reference and Yagpung and Kellen, I actually think Kellen's been pretty good for them this year. I just think they've had no coordination, like, with trying to help him, whether it's like the damage dealers following it up or the support's able to keep him alive. Where I think it kind of, what we've seen in the past, right? Like teams where, you know, a tank player doesn't look the best because the rest of the team just isn't following suit. And like, you know, we've seen like big plays from Yaki, but like we got those with Florida. And you know, how many times, you know, for every like good play, right, there's a play where, you know, you're like, oh man, like trying to pull a blade out like 1v4, like what's going on? I mean, I think it makes it difficult to play like the tank position, because you're trying to, you know, coordinate and set up these plays around some of these ultimates, and then all of a sudden now you no longer have them, nobody's in position with you. It could be really tough, especially with how many teams are really coordinated in the league.
But it feels like there is a level of clutch factor with New York where you're not always going into your pick'ems and saying every team is 3-0ing this team. When I see Yaki and when he exclusively almost plays Tracer, I'm always like, Yaki gets sometimes like 1v3, 1v4, so I always want to give them a control map in my pick'ems. But Gladiators, this stage, have only dropped 1 map. That's it. And that was to Florida, like the very first match. So it's like, can New York even make Gladiators sweat? Like, that's the $1 million question for me this series.
I legit thought New York coming in this season was going to be like a top 8 team in the West. I thought that they played, you know, in a tough division last year. I thought Flora was really good. You know, you got some really good players in the offseason. I was like, no, they're primed to, you know, get like top 8. Like, I didn't think finish like in the upper half, right? But like to for sure, like be in the play-in scenario to potentially maybe get in that 6th spot. I did not expect to be sitting here this late in the season with them at 4-17. Yeah, it's one that's definitely surprised me, you know, somewhat of the most throughout some of the teams here, their performance in the West.
And there are still some important stakes on the line for the Gladiators. They're in a top 3 spot. They're in the 3rd seed, but on their tail is Houston and London. So they need to win this series off cleanly. While New York, you know, they want to end their series off strong and, you know, try to make a statement that they can keep their jobs. And Kellen's on the Zarya, and he played a lot of that last series.
Yeah, and New York is actually going to play the flankers with a Genji Sombra, and they're going to play a Lucio Ana with it, which they're quite fortunate that like the Gladiators don't come out with any like real dive of their own, because this would be really difficult to deal with as Reiner comes out on the Orisa. They want to play a little bit more stationary with the Orisa Batiste Zen comp.
This is definitely like a different look for Gladiators at the very least. Like Reiner is playing a lot of Winston, D.Va, Sigma, even Doomfist. Kind of a similar hero pool than Kellen. But yeah, this is the first look for Orisa for Reiner specifically, as the Gladiators will be winning that first fight, although they give up maybe 10% to New York. That's not really a big deal.
No, not at all, especially now because, yeah, at an Ant Matrix to use here, you can play, you know, pretty close up. New York's going to have that speed boost to kind of like charge them down, but still, it's going to be a lot of damage coming out from the Gladiators. Just a lot of survivability, right? You know, with the Discord, obviously, to kind of mow players down on the other side, but you know, the immortality field, the healing of the Batiste is, Flora gets caught out here. All right, so he's going to not be in this fight really at all.
Oh, Yaki had dash and couldn't get the reset. Deflect couldn't save him, but no one can save you from Kevster, but he's throwing pulse bombs down main. So that'll be a second fight in a row for Glads, and keeping Reiner up is important, and that's a lot of ult charge for Skew. That'll get him closer to Trance.
Yeah, you see the Batiste won't really heal up Reiner at all because they're actually going to just leave the Harmony Orb and let Skewed farm all of this health in terms of, you know, ultimate charge. So Reiner will get back to full HP. Still Gladiators controlling this top area. You'll be able to use your Ant Matrix. Maybe set up for a big Terror Surge. We haven't seen, you know, according to the stats, we've seen players getting like 3 kills in one. I haven't seen that with my eyes, but maybe we see a big one coming around the corner here.
Ooh. Oh. And that's what I really like about this Zen Bat from Glads is they usually only run this on Circuit Royale. It's usually when Shu and Scoot are in, it's a lot of Brig Ana because they like that kind of more protective backline, but feeling like they are the better team and they can just poke down New York before a fight even starts, and you're kind of seeing the evidence of that right now.
Also, like, New York wants to play fast, and we've talked about how they haven't really been able to coordinate, and if you're the Gladiators, like, sure, let them play fast and let them just make the mistakes. Here comes Reiner on the flank.
But Yaki has a Nano Blade.
Yeah.
I want to watch that. He's already sliced through 2, had to deal with the immortality on his own. Still found success for New York in their first fight win. Now just having to deal with Kevster, who probably wants to just stall this out to 90-something, but now leaves, and New York are back in the driver's seat.
Yeah, he gets themselves within 1-fight territory. Let's take a look now from Yaki's POV. So, he actually gets the immortality field for Slash, which is probably why it allows him to just kind of take out the Batiste and move on forward. So, good fight win for New York. You're not going to have that combo for a while, though, so you're going to have to be able to use some of these other ultimates to get another win.
Yeah, you just want to make sure you don't stack the EMP and the grab, but felt a little insecure against Skew that you felt the need to just solo EMP him. Probably just wanted to extend the hack so he didn't try to trans towards his team. So we'll see if that was worth for New York, as they'll now have to depend on the grab if they feel this fight isn't winnable without ults. Reiner pushing away. Excelsior now using the sound barrier to just keep hold of that choke, and all the kills are going New York's way. So as long as they conserve this grab, they can use it for the next fight and maybe make a 0-100 comeback. I don't know.
Yeah, I still think you're in a pretty good position if you're the Gladiators. You know, after those fight wins from New York, they used a lot of these ultimates. The Gladiators use absolutely nothing. Transcendence here available here for that grab, and you also have the immortality field in the way. Yaki's able to get a kill out of it, but here comes the rest of the Gladiators.
Yeah, like you EMP'd to try and mess with Skew's trans. You didn't see him pop it. You should have known that that trans was going to come out for the grab, and Kellen went inside of that room when he could have just right-clicked. He saw the lamp come up. I'm very surprised Kellen felt he wanted to commit to that, but 99% to Glads, and he flipped the point. And you have just pure dominance everywhere. On the high ground, you have presence on the point. New York, they have so many different angles they have to engage on. And Kellen's back on the Doomfist. He gets nanoed, but you don't really want to spar with an Orisa. And he gets his jump messed up. Here's a Terra Surge and slams Kellen down like a pancake. That is round 1 for the Gladiators.
Yeah, the Terra Surge is used there. It doesn't actually get the kill. takes a while for Reiner to even like set it up, but I think that's going to be a difficult kind of composition and play style for New York to deal with like all day long, like trying to play that aggressive style into the Gladiators, who are playing definitely more of a stationary type of game. So we'll see New York in this next round. It looks like they don't really want to change much, where the Gladiators look to be hovering maybe something a little bit different. Like, do you play the Orisa with Sombra Tracer? That's a little bit new and different. Looks like, okay, Reiner will play the D.Va, so get D.Va with the Sombra, and then Kevster probably moves over to Tracer here. So gonna play the D.Va into the Zarya, which is definitely a little bit scary.
Yeah, you can't Matrix those. So we'll see if Kellen can get charged up and how far he wants to extend. I feel like his confidence grows with his energy grows. While New York, they hold on to Mega Pack. The Gladiators have their support on the high ground. Happy's kind of hovering around. New York already lose floor on the engage, so Gladiators are starting to surround that Mega Room, and maybe they'll send Shu or Skew to cap the point, but New York at a disadvantage.
Yes, in New York, they try and take control of the Mega Room, and maybe I could think, what, force the Gladiators into a fight there? But the Gladiators don't really need to do that at all. Like, Reiner can just sit here on the high ground, control this as D.Va. You take the point because you have that side of the map kind of free for your own self. Look at this. I mean, New York has to cross this large span in the middle of the map, taking loads of damage.
New York have middle map control, though, and they'll have a natural high ground to jump down upon these supports. Yaki's doing just that, and he just has to depend on Kellen giving him bubbles. He's antied, and Yaki needed more help than that. Where is Flora? Flora is busy hacking Reiner, so you already have different focus fire, different goals within New York that is going to cost them these fights. You really have to have this Sombra work with somebody. Or maybe Yaki was the one who was up apart, but either way, Pulse Bomb into hole 1 as Gladiators nano Kevster just to assure success. New York might have flipped the point, but I think this is only temporary.
Yeah, New York takes the point back, and maybe they're able to actually hold on to this, as you have the sound barrier coming in here from Gangnam Jin. So Yaki, and I believe that's Flora there, so they're able to actually win towards the end of that, so New York holds on. You do invest the sound barrier into that, which maybe you didn't need to do so, but still, I think in the spot that you are in, if you're New York, right, just letting the Gladiators get to maybe 50% isn't in the equation.
Yeah, whenever Kevster's alive, I just assume Gladiators are going to win the fight, and then Yaki's actually made a tremendous impact. The first and second blood here, killing both supports of Glads. If you demech Reiner and maybe even stall him out and maybe D.Va form, then that's more time for New York. They're actually in the lead. And that last fight was turned by a double kill from Yaki too, so he's on it today.
Yes, he's been making really nice plays for the supports, and I mean that's kind of the thing with Yaki. Like when he's on, he's picking up these kills. It looks awesome. Sometimes it doesn't really look that great. As Floor actually uses an early EMP, you just get shoot.
Yeah, at least that was your primary target. If you thought he had the Transcendence, you didn't want him to try and save the team. I like the attempt of a counter EMP from Happy, as Excelsior were clearly trying to overextend to kill Skewed as well. But New York seemed to be stabilized, and they have map control.
You'll see the Gladiators trying to move a little bit to the high ground. So pretty big biotic grenade hit there. So, okay, Yaki's got the blade.
Oh, Transcendence immediately in response. 45 HP, almost got around the corner. I like his little eyebrow wiggle whenever he dies. It's like, he's like, huh? It's like, that's my exact face all the time. So New York, I mean, they lost control of the point, but they have some ults that they could try and get it back with. It's just,
but like, could you have held on to that blade and maybe gotten a better use of it? At that point, it's like, what, like a 2v4, 3v5 maybe, like in that type of scenario? Like, you would love to have it here, like if you could have used, let's say, the grab, gotten the trance out, and then had a nano blade combination, which you would have been able to use here. Like, I think those are some of the little things that New York with decision making, it ends up hurting them in the long run.
Nano to Yaki, already assassinating one of the supports, and Flora's actually with them. So you're seeing that synergy from New York already improve off screen. Gladiators don't have any supports, so it's about farming and keeping, extending what you have if you're the Gladiators. As Reiner thinks he wants a second chance at this, he gets back into the mech using the self-destruct when he loses his life. Dives towards the point to try and keep the overtime wick burning, or at least start it, and it's not going to happen. New York will send us to round 3.
Yeah, Kevster was going to be the one who was going to contest, but he actually got caught up in a grab, so wasn't able to get there to the point to even make a play for it. So New York sends it to a third round. It's something that like, could you say this is expected? Like, probably not, but are you surprised? Like, I don't think really at all, as New York is definitely capable of playing, you know, up to par with a team like the Glads.
But at least you're seeing those adaptations. I feel like there's a lot of player agency with New York where they, if something goes wrong, they try to fix it immediately. Whether it was the coordination there, getting split up and then reuniting. As the Gladiators, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They're undefeated. They've only lost one map this whole stage. They can keep doing what they're doing. Now it's the double flanker versus double flanker, but different tanks here.
So we'll see, yeah, with Kellen going over to the ball, and then Reiner staying on the D.Va. So D.Va, how Johnny mentioned, I think, has really kind of become like the go-to tank in a lot of situations. Maybe not into like the Zarya-based compositions, but the ball, we've seen such like mixed results from where they weren't really having any problem dealing with the supports, right? I mean, Yaki was able to do that on the Genji alone. You don't really need the ball pressure, potentially.
It's like Kellen's been kind of hovering behind the supports of Glads and maybe try and push them out of that drum room that a lot of people like to shelter their supports in. It's got a lot of good cover. Kellen wants to cause disruption, and so he does. Just has to be careful of getting either slept or hacked. That's why a lot of people are not playing ball right now, and they prefer Winston or literally anything else. But it's rather successful for New York. Kellen sets it up, and the kills are following through, and New York haven't dropped anyone.
Yeah, as Yaki actually goes on a little bit of a tear, kills like 3 or 4 players there. As they make it look good with the Gladiators, who are holding serve on the point. It looked like they were going to take it. And then New York comes in with this dive, with Floor and Kellen like coming from one side and Yaki kind of collapsing from the other. That looked really good. They're able to do it with both supports, where now they've had a really difficult time since the Gladiators have gone to like this Ana Zen. They've had a difficult time keeping them alive.
Oh, Kevster, all he has to do is keep chasing Kellen down, forcing him to move, but then Yaki might want to babysit him too. There's a kind of a lot of rock, paper, scissors happening on who you need to keep in check, as Excelsior did have the point, and Gladiators kind of send, I think it was maybe Kevster or Happy, just to maybe get a flip, and it summons the attention of Excelsior back there, and without Kellen, you don't have that initiator, so it's up to Floor and Yaki to actually flank and start assassinating people like Floor just did with Shu. So what is Kevster trying to do? He's going to shut Yaki down. He's clearly a threat and one of the best performing players on New York, so Glads are good at realizing that, but a trans has been forced from New York as they hope to keep the point. In response, though, a Floor EMP to follow up with this fight to assure success to New York. It seems to be the case, although Glads did manage to steal the objective, but only for a second, but New York are trying to get it right back. Happy thinks this is winnable, and EMP is dropped. There's no support ults for New York Excelsior, and that's a critical sleep from Hole 1 to get Happy out of the picture.
Yeah, and they nanoed Happy there as well, and they're going to use a Transcendence here, so clearly they think this is winnable with like players like Reiner coming off the spawn.
I think I'm counting a 3v3 as Yaki just enters the fight now to equal things up. Point flip back to Glads. It's 74% to New York, though, so they're still in a good spot.
Yeah, if you're the Glads, you got to have Kevster land this pulse bomb early, get like a pretty easy fight win, and that's exactly not what you wanted to see. Is skewed pokes out a little bit, and Gangnam just takes him out at a distance, so now New York with an opportunity to get right back on the point.
Yeah, and you want to do some scouting if you're the supports, but when you are scouting, when you are looking around corners, you do kind of reveal yourself to charge up right clicks, and that was a great pick from Gangnam, and Yaki even staggers out Shu, so you have both supports just not in sync for Glads, and at 80% for Excelsior, this is coming down to the wire. New York should be extending here to get any more picks that they can, so you have a Sombra matchup. If Floor wins this, it's important. Happy doesn't even have a translocate. He gets pinched from the other side from Kellen, and New York have a chance to just create a fight advantage before Glads can even touch.
Yes, Translocator got killed like right away. That is a sick sleep.
Oh, Floor is pissed. But you're winning, Excelsior. There was an attempt there. Is anyone touching? Kevster does. The pulse misses Gangnam only by a hair. And the nano is summoned from Ho 1 just to assure that he stays alive. Another great sleep. Ho 1 gets Kevster, but the Matrix from Reiner saves Kevster, allows him to just get away. Excelsior now are forced to take this fight on equal terms, and Yaki still shredding. Kevster gets the chase down on Kellen, manages to get a pack, and reconnects with Ho 1, but Yaki is now killing the supports of Gladiators, and this could be potentially a New York Excelsior map. But no, there's no DPS. Shu is making this winnable for Glads. He just killed 3. Are you serious?
Yeah, as a shoot from the high ground was able to get one and then jumps down. He's got both flankers there with him. They're able to deal with the rest of New York as, oh, this is going to come down to the wire. You kind of feel like it with the Gladiators having an EMP and Transcendence coming up online in a prime position to take the next like 2 fights with some of these ultimates. Looking at like a potential 1-fight game coming down here.
Okay, don't get slept. And this EMP hits both supports. Actually, only one. Ghanamjin wasn't affected somehow, so the Transcendence will kind of escort him back to a safer location. And happy old translocates on the other side. So we'll see if New York supports are actually safe.
Oh, they can't.
And it
they
feels
can't
like
fight.
Gladiators are chasing them down.
Yeah, once Kellen drops, you just can't fight anymore if you're New York. So Hoenn gets hacked. He's doing a nice job of keeping him up, but you see Reiner, they commit. They want to get this kill.
Oh, that's a massive kill. Gladiators are reaching that 90% mark, so just hunkering down. They have a self-destruct, they have trans, they have pulse bomb. Like, these are so many win conditions, and Yaki not hitting that pulse.
They give the point
It's gonna make an impact. Kellen's minds weren't even on the objective, so where is New York to prevent this flip? It is in favor of New York, and Gladiators hanging around, just trying to pick off New York. They're not trying to take a fight. They're just trying to hold the real estate as Kellen starts pressuring the Glad supports. Skewed gives the nano to Shu as his last wish, and you have very limited heals if you're Glads. You got a self-destruct, doesn't catch Gangnam-jin, lots of pillars, lots of shelter, Flora, EMP. It's gonna be the game winner for New York. It drops, it only hits Kevster. You stop him from blinking for 2 seconds, and no one was able to capitalize on that. New York was able to heal back up thanks to the Transcendence. That was a moment of stabilization that New York needed, and Glads could not touch in time. New York will be taking map 1.
Yeah, and it's like a one-on-one battle between Kevster and Flora on the point. And Kevster obviously knows he doesn't need to kill him to keep that one going, but eventually just steps off a little bit and lets Flora take it. And that kind of like almost ends up sealing the deal for New York, as it allows them to send it into OT and trigger it and leave the Gladiators a little bit short.
19 final blows for Yaki, 24-8 in total, 23-4 for Kevster. I think Kevster outdamaged him by 3K, but a lot more final blows for Yaki. He was really good at keeping New York into this. This has been a great series so far. I mean, Glads have only dropped 1 map this entire stage, and now their second one to the New York Excelsior. This has been a blast, and we'll see you guys on the other side of this break for map 2. The Yaki deadlift. Look at this guy. Focused and ready to carry. You know, sometimes you get in the Yaki backpack and sometimes he's a bit of a bystander. But today, he showed up. Actually had a deadlift today in terms of stats with a 19 final blows, which I mentioned before the break. That's kind of crazy.
Yes. I mean, Yaki, he's such like a polarizing player, I feel like, in terms of where he stands in the league, or where people have... Like, they either think he's, like, one of the, you know, best at the position, right? Or they think it's just, like, you know, empty stats, or whether, like, he's great, but the team around him isn't. It's so hard to really judge him as a player, right? I mean, I've always, like, you can clearly tell, like, he's extremely talented. But the teams have never really been able to, like, coordinate with him, and maybe it's the type of thing where you need to build a team around that's going to, like, just basically listen to him and follow what he does. Like, maybe it's kind of the systems he's been in, because, I mean, you see games like that in game number 1. He's able to, you don't want to say single-handedly, but, like, it makes it look like it, kind of take out a team that is, like, one of the better ones in the league.
Yeah, it's funny because Yaki even has silver damage because Kellen has more damage than him on ball. But an interesting stat to compare, like, apples to apples, Kevster to Yaki. Kevster outdamaged him by at least 3,000, but Yaki has 7 more final blows, so that already translates to Kevster not being able to finish off his kills, but still being slightly more involved than Yaki. But we saw time and time again how many times Yaki was able to go kill Shu and Skewed, or at the very least one of them every single time. But then you got to give a shout out to people like Shu going for the MVP award nomination, who killed like 3 or 4 that one fight to save Glad. So these supports, man, have been kind of popping off too.
Yeah, and as we move in Icon Vault, it'll be interesting what we see from both of these teams, where I think the Gladiators, you could see them run like some Winston-based stuff, maybe some Diva yet again. New York, I don't think you can run Zarya here. There's too much like high ground, you know, at different points of the map. Maybe you can get away with it on first point defense, but after that, I just don't think it's possible. So at least at the start, it looks like New York, they'll come out and run this Zarya-based composition, which I think gives the Diva stuff some trouble.
Yeah, it's like as of late, Kellen's kind of gone through an evolution through this meta. At the very start, he was only running Winston. That's when they won Game 5 against Toronto. He only ran Winston. It was probably tough, you know, with the burst of Zen and Sombra and stuff like that. Then he kind of went towards Ball and Sigma on sort of niche maps. But most recently against Justice, he actually played a lot of Zarya on kind of these brawlish, more flatter maps. So it's been a lot more Zarya and surprisingly Doomfist for him. So just making sure to time those bubbles on Yaki and Flora is important. And Reiner and the Glads, full held Vancouver Titans. We even saw the Reiner Roadhog last time they were on this map. So we'll see if they'll make a joke out of New York. And whew, that was a little close.
Kevster will still jump up and take a shot as Yaki gets out of the way. So you see they're already like changing things up pretty significantly. They're going to run the Brig with the Ana, play a little bit more defensive, not going to be playing the Zen, so making it a little bit tougher on the flankers for New York. All right, so now we're going to see the... Okay, so they're going to go back to Zen Ana. Interesting. So they'll actually bring a Sombra into the mix as well. So they want to play just as aggressive.
Yeah, if you just play as far back as you can, Yaki's not going to want to just double blink past that bridge and go after Shu and Skewed. So it'll be up to kind of Glads to take it one step at a time, not skip any steps, and keep Shu and Skewed in either in this kind of hidden left side building or far away from the bridge where they're not in blink distance of Yaki. Because that's the only person that can really harass them along with Flora. Who can obviously decloak back there. But for now, Glads have made it past the bridge, looking for kind of any pick. And New York don't want to give any damage up, any health up. Reiner's already bouncing back as soon as he has a Discord Orb on him. You have to be a lot more cautious as a Winston with the burst of Sombra and Zen as Glads make their way to the point. It's already forced, I think that was happy to translocate back. Reiner taking his time and really depending on the DPS to make something happen.
Oh, but they lose Skewed right away, so just kind of like not being able to protect the supports happens yet again here for the Gladiators as Yaki and Flora are able to combo.
Yeah, Glads are just, although they got that kill, they're just not very healthy. And finally, Yaki is able to extend, finish off Reiner, and even go after Shu as well. So this is kind of killing the fight for Gladiators. They can still like hang around and set up their double flankers in off-angle positions, but Glads will have to reset.
Yeah, and the Winston doesn't really have any like peel capabilities, right? Like no opportunity to like get back where let's say you're D.Va with a defense matrix or Zarya with the bubbles. It's really offensive based here as you see Reiner just dive on in. So he gets EMP'd and just goodbye. But it's obviously, I think, a reason why Winston's kind of like fallen out of favor over the last few weeks.
You're kind of honored, though, if you get hit with a solo EMP, but I like the way that New York are positioning against this. They know that Reiner has only a limited range with his jump, and Yaki delivers a present dispute, so this is just going to delay Gladiators even more, and Yaki, it's not even done yet. He's going after Shu, so Glads will have to position even further back, or maybe consider the Brigitte.
Yeah, it's like, what do you do if you're the Glads? Like, I don't know if this is really making an impact. Then, because when you think about the Ball, right? At least Ball is like a little bit more like personal survivability than like Winston, and able to better move around the map and get out of the way. I feel like they're just setting themselves up for another kind of death coming in here.
Oh, Shu is already won, and he's like, wait, I hacked the Ana, but Shu is low, and now you kind of got lost in the sauce there. But Glads have somehow made their way. I'm sure like the double flankers of New York have summoned the attention of Ho1. He presented himself more forward, and Reiner jumped on him. He commits the primal rage to keep himself alive. And this should be done and dusted for the Glads. Have gotten multiple kills. They've got the second tick and almost the third, unless Flora decloaks, and he doesn't want to. They're going to play the next point.
Yes, you couldn't really fight that at that point if you're in New York. You lost Ho1 early. Gangnam Jin gets like, primaled basically to like the Gladiators spawn point. And now you kill Flora here. So maybe you're actually going to get the payload moving for the Glads. A lot of ultimates for New York here though on the high ground. I mean, you drop down with the Zarya grab. You figure that's a fight win.
If the Shu trance doesn't come out, but it's really about who's pulling the trigger first. And New York, you may want to cut off their rotations to go from Glads going inside the castle, and they made their way there. And you let Glads pull the trigger first. The EMP, Kellen is trying to counter grab. He only picks up Happy and Reiner, so he actually ends up equalizing things as the rest of Glads are disengaging now.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty good grab at the end of the day. Like, Kellen doesn't build up a ton of charge off of it, but you're able to get 2 kills. You stop the payload from moving. It's pretty hard to play the Zarya here, and play from the high ground because you can't really drop down. You have no access back up. You're really just kind of like on an island at that point. So you have to play the high ground. You have to let players like Yaki and Flora be the ones that can test the cart.
Reiner plays the shield down. Kevster, I think he gone for pulse and it got bubbled. Not sure if it's stuck, but this one did. And New York get the drop down, and Yaki is on the hunt. Shu is next on the menu, and it's yet another hold for New York. Glads, although they had Kevster on the card, they got around to the corner, but getting inside the castle seems to be difficult for them.
Yes, Kevster actually did land that pulse bomb on Kellen, and he just stood alone, bubbled it. So got a lot of charge off of it, and then you saw Yaki's pulse bomb really effective as Flora looking to set up this big EMP. So it looks like, the supports know it's coming. Shu's trying to hide from it.
And I could see the supports splitting off in different rooms too, so you can only EMP one of them, but now Glads initiate. It's the Nano Reiner, but Flora meets them there with an EMP. Now Reiner has slept, he's antied, he's hacked, and he's done with this. But Glads at least have the high ground, and Excelsior are just at the back of point B, hoping to just force another fight, and actually they take back over the high ground because Glads are trying to push the cart.
Yeah, but what do you have here for New York to try and hold this towards the end? Like, are you trying to... maybe you can get Ho1 and Nano here from the high ground. I think you're just in a really rough spot. They do have the clock down to 30 seconds. If you can like manufacture a pick here, maybe like a hack on a Reiner, and then being able to like do enough damage to finish him off, maybe you can actually get a hold here before point B if you're New York.
Oh. Okay,
I thought he was going.
New York were just trying to force cooldowns out of Reiner. They hacked him, and Flora and Yaki are working really well together. That pulse from Yaki alone forced a Transcendence out of Shu. Gladiators have to act now, but they don't have their Winston. They're going to have to start overtime and hope that Reiner either uses Primal to get more jumps back from spawn, because he is missing in action. It's up to the DPS to stand apart. Ho1 will have the Nano, and you can see that he's being pinged on the left corner. The Gladiators know he's there. The Nano goes goes to Flora. He's not managing to get any hacks, and how can you, because Reiner is swinging for the fences with this Nano Primal to try and push the Transcendence off the map. It was so close. And this is the final fight for Gladiators with point B in their sights. They don't have skewed, but supports are being traded out left and right. You gotta deal with Yaki, he's already killed 2. And it's just Shu on the cart. Happy kind of left and forgot to keep contesting, so Glads will not be capping B.
Yeah, so they actually do get a hold before checkpoint B, so that's quite huge there for New York. I think we'll see what happens on offense. I think you can take that first point with the Zarya, trying to play for that high ground, unless they end up playing like the Genji. If you play a Genji Sombra and have them be the ones that access the high ground and play Zarya in more of like a supportive way from the payload, maybe that's a possibility, but pretty good hold there from New York on the defensive side of things. Kellen did end up using that grab there at the end, didn't really get much of anything with it, but still, he was just so difficult to take out on the cart. Like, the Winston doesn't have enough damage to be able to just burn through both Bubbles and Zarya.
Yeah, there's a big difference in focus fire between these two teams. Reiner has the most amount of deaths on Gladiators at 6. Kellen, on the other hand, is 13-1. He's only died once. Yeah. Obviously, you have maybe a little bit more flexible survivability having 2 bubbles that you can pop at any moment. But I've been kind of noticing that Flores hacking specifically Reiner, and Yaki is ready on an off angle to just either force Reiner to leave the fight or to die for it. And that's where Yaki is just clutching up like crazy today.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what you thought the potential of this team would be, right? Being able to play like this frequently, not just kind of like on a whim, because when they do coordinate and they put things together, they look like they could have been, whether it's in the top 6 or the top 8 in North America. So it'll be New York. They'll actually play the Zarya on offense, like I mentioned, could be difficult towards the second part of the map. Glads will play the Brig this time, so they'll play the Brig with Diana, and then they'll actually play the Sojourn here. So playing a little bit more long range, a little bit more defensive.
Oh, see that focus fire as soon as Reiner jumps in. It's so difficult for him to play that Winston, because he has to make a decision whether he wants to stay or go. Yeah, it's a big wake-up call for all main tanks.
Yeah, there's like nothing he can do, right? I mean, he gets hacked, he gets discorded, he's getting shot from behind by the Sombra, who's getting the damage amp from the discord and just the hack. Somehow they're actually able to hold on long enough to get him back into the fight. Where maybe they're actually going to stop New York from even taking this.
Oh, Yaki just killed both supports and now Happy? It's just a one-man army. I could watch this guy all day. And now that means New York at least have 2 ticks, and Reiner's not healthy enough to go and contest the 3rd, so New York making a speed run out of that point A.
And can they do it here on point B? They're not playing that Genji, so a little bit harder to access the high ground. I mean, just, you know what's crazy? Just watch the players from the Gladiators whenever we're like watching, whether it's from Yaki's POV or Flora's, like everybody's looking a different way because the attack is coming from so many different angles. Like they have Gangnam Jin firing off orbs from a distance. Yaki's coming from one side, Flora's coming from the other. The difference here compared to like some other times we've seen from New York is like they're all actually focusing the same target as opposed to just kind of everybody shooting at something different.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that already on Control when Glads had like less final blows but more damage. And New York, it feels like the hacks and the tracers and everyone is on the same page. The fact that Kellen only had 1 death in that 1 round tells me he has time to bubble himself, get to a safer position, bubble someone else. Like, you should be able to just run this Zarya down, but the running down is difficult. Kevster misses that pulse, trying to harass Gangnam Jin, who gets nanoed by Ho 1 to keep him up, but that means the New York DPS did not get any help. And Happy on this high ground is just free shooting, and now he drops down to go for more. That's his 3rd kill of the fight.
Yeah, and this will be the hardest part of the map here for New York, trying to push through this area where they don't have access to the high ground. If Florida maybe gets a hack, that's really about it. Yaki's got to use multiple blinks to try and get there. But it's going to be difficult for the supports and Kellen, right? Lots of high ground there for Skewed to fire orbs down from, Happy to shoot as well. And you can't contest any of it, force them down from it. You're really relying on Flora and Yaki to do so.
Oh, see, Glads are trying to cut off those rotations from New York inside of the castle, but Reiner gets antied down the corner. He'll go back to the high ground. So New York are established at least in the castle, but what awaits them is the rest of the defense on the high ground. So Kellen is at least communicating how he wants this grab to go down. And he's probably expecting the skewed trans, but if he's not here, he can't use it. But they have to pop the bubble. And Glads ended up saving themselves because of that. Reiner got slept, but he is woke. He tosses somebody off the high ground. And there's that late transfer from Skewed and Gangnam Jin. As there's a lot of chaos on the high ground, but Yaki lands a very important stick on Shu, and that means Glads have very limited heals, and they're on a limited clock on how this fight will break down. New York, by the way, have been pushing the cart almost this entire time, so this is going well for them.
Yeah, that's actually the overclock there from Happy as well. But Yaki takes him out as Yaki's just been a menace on the Tracer. There's been no slowing him in Florida down, as Happy will go to the Ashe now. So just trying to play the Ashe. Maybe you can circumvent like some of these players and get towards the high ground, because it's going to be tough to make a difference here at the end.
Glads are going for high ground when the cart is approaching its destination. The box of victory is there. One last touch, and that's from Reiner. He's got the Discord Orb on him, and no Primal for this fight. That's a stick onto Kellen. He got nanoed, and he only lived for a second, but the focus fire from Glads reigned true at the last moments in the last hour. And New York will have to fall for now, but they have still they had 2.5 minutes, and now only down to 2 to finish off this map.
Yeah, and what, a little bit more than a meter to go. Not much at all to get here for New York. You can play for a Pulse Bomb, you can play for an EMP. The EMP may be enough. It's just, how do you get Happy here off of this high ground? You're going to have to dedicate a player or two to do so. And you see, if he starts hitting some of these shots, it's going to be difficult to even get in.
I like the swap, too, to this. I mean, he was doing perfectly fine on the Sojourn, and I think just had issues charging up, so consistent damage of Ashe is nice. And Glads, I like that they keep an eye on their castle, they keep an eye on main, and they're doing a lot of scouting, as it's up to Flora to get past all of those defenses, get behind them with an EMP. They did spot New York supports, though, in castle, so they should know this is their vulnerable position. They already go after Ho1, and Gangnam Jin evaporates before the Flora EMP could even get focused on, but Flora has killed 2. Yaki is alive, and he slept, so Kevster finishes him off. And New York are stuck in this 2v2. Reinforcements around the corner for Glad, so all Kevster has to do is live on the cart, and that's difficult to do as a squishy character. But Skewed's there to give him the orb, and New York will have to officially give this up.
Yeah, New York doesn't feel comfortable enough to fight it. I thought for a second maybe they end up using the grab, just trying to kill Kevster. You still have Flora there, but they decide to hold on to some of these ultimates. Try and fight yet again, as Kellen will have a grab, Yaki with a pulse bomb here. You're not going to get everybody like grouped up easily. So Gangnam Jin will have that Transcendence as well, in case they try and put some pressure on the supports coming on in.
It's a long rotation from Yaki. Yeah. He's trying to go after Skewed.
Yeah, I guess what are they going to try and do? Get a hack here on the Skewed and then finish him off?
Well, it has to happen now, and Yaki is already going after Skewed and Kev, but Kevster actually falls back to peel for his supports. Kind of knowing that Yaki, okay, we don't know where Yaki is. He's got to be somewhere funny because Glads had an eye on their castle. Now Reiner will be back on the Doomfist, and spawns are real close. Yaki pulls his shoe, and the kills are falling for New York. Yaki gets pulsed because he's popping off, but this bomb from the Ashe of Happy was the last-ditch effort to just stabilize and keep the cart from not moving. This 2.5 minutes for New York has dwindled down to overtime, and Glads are under fire. It's all 4 of New York here and spraying these doors down. Happy's back on the Symmetra to just give them a teleport, an easier way to get back to the cart. And as he's been left alone, he's charging up. He's killed 2. How are New York choking this? It was 4v1. Are you serious?
As that is kind of like New York's season right there. As looks like under the absolute penalty. Yeah, I mean, that is one where New York, I mean, they get 2 minutes to get like 1.5 meters, not even. And they're not able to do so, and multiple times got a player advantage. Really, you know, just not played well from New York there towards the end.
Yeah, geez, but 27 and 5, and I think 15 final bullets for Yaki, and Kevster at least keeping up. And I like that Kevster's style changed. He definitely went more protector mode for Shu and Skewed, which forced Yaki to just reconsider his options. That was still a really, really close map, and we're tied 1-1. Who knew? But after this break, we'll see who will take a lead. See you then. Did you guys miss that? An absolute felony was just committed. The New York Excelsior had almost 3 minutes to push 1 meter in these 4v1 scenarios, and Glad's clutched up, man. Respawn's too strong.
We saw, like, the Symmetra come out into play as, let's take a look here from Shu's POVs. He just gets the, yeah, I mean, that's just the nano on the Kevster, because he's the only person he can see is Kevster. Oh, and the payload is the Tracer. Tracer already does a ton of damage. Just, yeah, with the Symmetra help, able to finish some players off is that's how you end up with the hold there. Man, that was one of the odder endings I think we've seen in a while.
Bit of a choke there at the end. I like that Glad's adapted, though. They even brought the Symmetra out with the teleport at the top kind of door. I think that allowed just Respawns to get back so quickly, and it's just when all chaos lets loose, New York just maybe got too stressed, too pressed, and could not impress at the end. So it won't be a map win for them, despite I thought they were performing A+ throughout.
They were, and then like they had multiple times at the end, and then they just kind of like beefed all of them. You don't want to say it's like typical New York, but like it kind of feels like, you know, with how the series is, like, yeah, they step up. Like, you get a sick game out of Yaki and Flora for all map 1, they win that one. You know, you get what they played better than the Gladiators for like 90% of the map, pretty much. There, map number 2. Yeah. They end up losing it. You just wonder, like, what is their, you know, confidence level? How is their like momentum now going into this third map? Because, like you mentioned, they've had a lot of rough moments, I think, throughout this series. A lot of frustration. Can they, like, you know, rebound and get the mental back on track?
Speaking of mental, I want to do a wellness check with Reiner, hitting double-digit deaths at 12, but to be fair, he's getting focused with, like, every Flora hack. Yaki's throwing pulses his way. New York even solo EMP'd Reiner when he jumped in on Eichenwald. Like, this guy is getting 0 breaks. But maybe that allows Kevster to have more freedom, because he had a lot of final blows. He went 24-4 with 12 final blows versus the 27-5, 15 of final blows for Yaki. So the Kevster versus Yaki matchup has been so sick to watch, and I'm surprised that it's this close.
And Reiner's also getting, like, hacked and discorded during that. You have, like, the Tracer and the Sombra both putting out tons of damage. Like, no bubble, they get inside the bubble, doesn't really matter. I mean, there's no way to keep him alive through some of that stuff. So, although it's been a high death series with kind of like the comp in play, for New York, it's kind of expected, as Happy just going to use the Sonic here to check, then probably a swap here.
So yeah, the double flanker returns for New York, and then Happy on the Sojourn. He saw this on Eichenwald, eventually went to the Ash just for that consistent damage. He had some issues maybe charging up because New York, they just want to hide away against all the Gladiators poke who bring out the Zen Ana for just that.
Yeah, I think Happy can definitely do a job, though, as the Sojourn to be able to help out Skewed and Shu when the flankers dive in. Sojourn can just one-shot them there, but he just gets taken out by the Ana. I mean, they rarely see that. Ana taking a duel against a Sojourn there up on the high ground, but Hoenn takes him out and you lose Reiner. This has been a bizarre series. Like, just in the fashion in which, like, we're seeing, like, fights end and kills happen and whatnot, it's just been a little bit odd. So Happy now, he'll go over to Ash here. So you want to play the Ash now maybe against these flankers, really punish them? It seems like the Gladiators don't have a great answer for this line.
Yeah, no, last time we went, the Gladiators went to Route 66. This was the only map they actually lost all stage, and it was to Florida. And they tried different things from the Reiner Diva, Reiner Doomfist. The double flanker and the Ana Zen is all normal. It's Reiner that's had to make adjustments on this map, because again, the burst potential was kind of crazy for them. But Skewed usually will go to Brigida if he feels like the backline is threatened. That was an important swap they made against Florida. Just didn't net them a win. A little soft ice for Gladiators, and Reiner just needs to get pocketed by Skewed. There's an EMP from Flora who just melts down Shu, and Skewed has to run away. And these are just all kills for New York, who will continue to hold Glads and shred their time bank down in half.
Yeah, so they'll finish off Yaki will finish off Happy at the end. They try and get the sleep, actually, on Flora. When he uses the EMP, they're not able to do so. You're not actually able at that point for Skew to use the nano up to Reiner up in the high ground, which I thought may have been a possibility because Reiner was quite low. So you end up losing that fight as the Cardinal just kind of make his way backwards. Hasn't even really made it around that first corner. I'd say have to use the nano there now onto Shu to just keep him up.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Glads haven't killed anything yet. 0 deaths across the board for New York, and it's maybe going to continue to be this way. Reiner is slept on entry. New York take a second to group up. Good bubble onto Gangnam-jin in case that pulse was flying his way. Kevster doesn't land that, and at least he manages to get away. And New York are still stable with a minute and a half left, and Kevster's looming below.
And you don't have like a huge game-winning ult, so to speak, for New York, for the Gladiators, right? Where you don't have an EMP, you don't have like a grab, like you don't really have anything massive to work with here. That'll be the grab there from Kellen. I think that's up on the high ground, yeah, so they're actually able to grab both supports there.
Reiner's just getting messed with. He just tried to dive the supports and Kellen had bubbles ready to go. He's always saving one for the dive, and Gladiators are getting melted on every entry. And you gotta wonder, what is next for Reiner? Now he'll have the primal, you don't swap now, but like you said, they don't have powerful ultimates, but they have a powerful neutral. It just hasn't really happened yet. At least they have 2 kills with 36 seconds left, and Happy's dead again.
And you see how frustrating it is as he gets hacked, takes a bit of damage, they're not able to heal him through it. As kills like coming like sporadically from the Gladiators, but it's just not resulting in anything.
Kellen goes to the Diva just to bully Reiner even more, kind of that natural counter as we go to the last fight for Gladiators before they get full health by New York. And Yaki finds Reiner in the tiny cape who couldn't jump away in time. And he's looking to hunt the backline too. At least Kevster keeps him in check or has done some scouting. And Kevster has Shu there. He's always been kind of protecting them as the overtime has been started by Kevster. Now the ults ensue. The Bob thrown on the card just to keep that overtime wake burning, but it's been shredded down, so there's no Bob, and overtime will dwindle down. The Gladiators have to have point presence. Reiner's primaling, but he hasn't killed anything. He's only really summoned the Transcendence from Gangnam-jin, but that is a fight-winning pulse bomb from Kevster on the Hell 1. But what else can Gladiators do? Well, they're going to poke at range, chase down Flora. Does he manage to translocate out? He doesn't. So New York have folded, and Gladiators will manage to cap A somehow.
Yeah, it's about time. As I actually think Flora's EMP there got absolutely nothing. When he ends up like going towards the back line and end up using it, doesn't look like he connects with anybody there from the Glad, so it's a bit unfortunate there for New York, not actually able to get anything with that EMP. Still a really good hold from New York. And now they'll actually have a mirror matchup going on here. So Reiner will go over to the Diva, wants to play that in this part of the map, a little bit extra mobility. It just can't, when we saw this last time, Lemon, so couldn't the Gladiators keep their supports alive? I mean, that was the biggest thing that they were not able to do.
You see Flora just looming in the bag. We'll see if that is true, but at least the more flexible mobility allows Reiner to maybe try and matrix some of those damage. Shu's dead. This might delay Gladiators more. I mean, Skewed is hacked at 1 HP. You're going to see Kevster come back and try and deal with it. He kills Flora, but couldn't deal with both of them. So it's about Happy trying to have that same impact on Hole1 and Gangnam-jin, and I'm not seeing it, or at least it's countered by support ultimates when he does. But here's a replay of what just happened. Yaki is continuing to dominate.
I mean, that is filthy stuff. I mean, it feels like every time him and Flora are able to get at least one of the supports of the Gladiators, like without question. It's just, can they get 2 really is kind of the main thing. As they've been really successful with this dive throughout the game. You can see from Shu and Skewed how far back they want to play now because of it.
I like that Reiner is on the high ground. They spot Kellen, maybe trying to overextend. No, he heads back. But Gladiators can't be really indecisive. Reiner gets nano because he dropped down to 1 HP. They wanted to save the mech. Kellen eats up the pulse. And now Gladiators are on the attack. Gangnam-jin got nanoed, and Reiner's still trying to focus him down. It's just kind of a slow burn for the Glads as they got the cart pushing, and they're heading towards the end of point B. This pulse from Yaki misses, but can he finish off this target of Skewed? He's already antied himself, but that means no attention for the rest of his team. Gladiators don't have a tank. And that means they might not be able to have the space. Happy's still gonna EMP, but Kevster is above. Shu has to use Transcendence to keep himself alive and involved in the fight, as Gladiators are just scrounging for every kill they can until Reiner gets back. And I think it worked out at the end.
Yeah, they wanted to use the EMP, try and keep that one going. They knew they couldn't really afford to get a full reset, get their supports back this close. It would have been very difficult, where New York probably would have tried and went for the spawn cam. New York's going to have Flora with this EMP again. Can he land a better one than first point?
Or EMP, Shu falls over, Skew's on the opposite bridge, not accessible to that Sombra yet, so you at least have a source of healing for Glads. And all that pocketing has to go into Reiner. He's shoving and bullying everyone out of his way, and Kepster hits an important pulse on the Ho 1. And that defense is just over for the New York Excelsior, who won't be able to stand tall on point B. And Glads, through overtime after overtime, now head to point C.
And this does not feel good for New York. Time and time again, you've had an opportunity to get these holds. You allow them to stay in the fights and in the game. And the Gladiators, we know how good of a team they are. They could easily get a full hold on their defense. So it's been pretty poor thus far for New York now. I know some good attempts, but you got to seal the deal before point A or point B, because look at this. Glads, you'll have the self-destruct, you'll have EMP here, you'll have a nano, you have a lot of ultimates to maybe get this one close to the end.
Yeah, Glads will have to do kind of these short rotations to avoid being exposed out in this open portion of the map, utilizing the left side as Yaki's on the opposite. Hoping to just maybe dwindle down Reiner. He's been the focus of New York's attention, hence why he got those double-digit deaths on Eichenwald. But now more of Shu. Shu's orbs are going into Yaki, forcing him back. Here's an EMP from Happy onto those supports. Gangnam Jin is dead, and Ho1 can't decide who to give the nano to. So maybe Gladiators choosing to give up that fight, or to keep that fight going. New York choosing to give up that fight and recontest for the last one.
Still, though, I mean, they're going to have the nano. You still have the self-destruct, now a pulse bomb. So New York is, they're kind of threatening here on giving this one away now to the Glads, as that would be all the momentum you would think going towards the Gladiators.
Need a good nano target, maybe Kellen, if he has a lot of energy, and they do believe he does, and 2 kills already for New York, 5 on 3. Reiner is nanoed, and he has a self-destruct. He's going to lay it down. Can you get away? Kellen surely has a bubble. Gives one to his teammate, one to himself, survives it. New York anchored on the point, and Glads nowhere to be found, so they will not be capping point C.
It still feels like a win, though, for the Glads. I mean, they were 0.36 away from completing the map, and New York had 2 opportunities, one to get a full hold before A, and then the other with a good set of ultimates before checkpoint B, and we're not able to seal the deal both times, even with like going up an advantage in players both times at both parts of the game. So that's one, if you want to beat these top teams consistently, you have to be able to get away, with closing those games out in that type of environment and scenario, where see how New York does now on their offense, but they put themselves in a way tougher spot than they should be in.
Feels like Happy's more consistent on the EMP usage of killing Ho1 and Gangnam Jin a lot more. I wasn't seeing as much of that presence on Eichenwald. I mean, just comparing to Flora, who was outshining him, just Flora and Yaki outshining in that department. But, I mean, Kevster's following up with those. He's 16-1, 9 final blows, most out of the entire lobby. So Kevster's kind of elusive, and he's contributing a lot to clutching up in these final moments. I mean, it's overtime after overtime. Gladiators with like a minute and a half. I wasn't really expecting them to cap C. I wasn't even expecting them to leave point A after how they started.
Yeah, it's, well, now we'll see with the New York Excelsior on offense. Do they decide to play the Zarya-based look? It's a possibility here, although I thought their Diva play has been quite well. They'll actually go with the Zarya, so won't be able to access like the top of Big Earls with the tank play, to really kind of help those flankers, but those bubbles from Kellen have been huge, whether it's onto the supports to keep them alive, or, allow Yaki to play a little bit more aggro.
Yeah, you pointed out that he straight up safe skewed from a pulse bomb with one of those bubbles on Eichenwald. So Kellen performing really well on the Zarya today. And I like that he's been on this, because he actually started with only exclusive Winston at the start, and found out that lesson the hard way, that Winston don't be living very long. And that's, I think, why Glad's like the Diva instead. You just have a flexible matrix and a short cooldown on mobility. It's a lot easier to play than a Winston. But you need to be kind of close range, so Glads is about important those rotations. They're kind of hanging around Cave and really just staying in their main road, trying to cut off New York from the cart, and Ryder almost fell off the map. What's going on?
Yeah, and the cart is actually still moving for New York. It just makes it really difficult for, the cart's still moving. It makes it really difficult for the Gladiators. Like you saw from Reiner's POV, he sees where Kellen is, and Kellen's moving the cart and can't really contest that because you don't want to just contest the Zarya's diva in like that one-on-one scenario. So they have to kind of like wait a little bit till there's like a large gap, and then they go for the flankers, but they give up so much payload progress in the meantime.
And now because this cart is so deep, I don't think Glads can just go for this super aggro initiative, just playing main and extending from there. They kind of have to have someone back at all times, and preferably Kevster, and that's a stick on the whole one, so that'll delay things even more for New York, unless Yaki can get a trade stick too, but Flora was just trying to get some car push to stop it from going backwards.
Yes, I think you'll have to wait a little bit. Get Ho-On back in the fight. No reason to press at this point for New York. You still have 2 minutes here on the clock. Still a decent amount of time. There's some ultimates coming online from the Gladiators, but New York's still in the driver's seat with how much they got payload push thus far. Happy was spotted.
Oh, he's in between them, EMP, and Ganamjin is just popped instantly. Happy slept, so, but does Flora have the burst? Okay, he has the headshots, he's good. Happy is out of the picture. Flora is also killing Reiner solo. So this is an opening for New York Excelsior to get back on the cart.
It's sick from Ho-1, able to stay alive through all of that, right? You know, keeps himself alive. You know, the damage coming down from the Sombra and whatnot. Kellen obviously there with the bubbles, but that's massive. It's going to force Happy to make a switch. That's a pulse bomb that connects and forces out Transcendence.
And that's the EMP right after. Flora hits the backline, Skewed evaporates, and Shu is left on his own to try and heal what's left of this defense. You got Reiner and Kevster working around the cards, and it's 2v4, I think, and Glads are just not in a position to keep this going. So a good chance for Flora. I mean, that was a great EMP from Flora to wait for the Transcendence and backfire.
Yes, now Happy goes over and plays the Sojourn. So you see they just don't really, maybe that was just for the end of that. They're actually going to play the Ashe now, but you see they're just not really getting a ton of value out of trying to go in off of these EMPs and hacks. With Kevster really trying to maybe just spotlight Yaki a little bit, just kind of like follow him around. They're not able to follow up those EMPs or hacks, which is really kind of what you want to play the Sombra for.
Yes, and although this meta feels very individualistic, I definitely agree. There needs to be coordination around your Sombra. Unless her mechanics are, you know, the person's mechanics are insane, sometimes you can just solo kill somebody on Sombra, but usually only on a Zen. Ho-1 under pressure. Already antis himself and a headshot from Happy. So Ho-1 didn't want to get into cover. Just did not think Happy had it in him.
Yeah, that's kind of like, I mean, Ho-On knows he's taking some shots there. Maybe he thinks he could live. This be Ganamjin with a Transcendence, so you actually throw the Pulse Bomb into that, where this is, the New York can actually turn this.
Yeah, I mean, they needed that healing, especially with Ho-1 gone, and Glads drop down, they extend, they get met with some ultimates from New York. And as the fight breaks down, it's really only Yaki left in the middle of the map. He's getting chased down by Kevster, and now reinforcements are back for New York, so they can get back on the cart and see what's left of Glads.
Yeah, now Kellen gets up here on the high ground of Zarya, so trying to force Happy down. So Happy was doing a nice job controlling this high ground where you're not going to be able to access it with the Tracer. So, yeah, he gets back here, but like, what can he actually spot? Is okay, the supports for New York trying to get set up around the corner, and that's going to be a nice follow-up there from Kevster.
Oh, that's a trading blow from Yaki with the pulse bomb, though, and Kellen wasn't getting enough heals from Ho-1. He's trying to take care of everyone at once. Here's the Bob just to stop the cap from New York, and Flora slept, so that's an easy kill. So card ain't going nowhere.
It's still the Gladiators, though, giving up tons of space where New York doesn't really have to invest a ton to do it. They just have to kind of like occupy that area of the map. And what are you waiting on? Like Happy to get some picks or get players low, Kevster as well. Because right now you're going to come back for New York. 60 seconds, not a ton of time. But you'll have a Nano, you'll have an EMP, and you have a Grab. I mean, those are three of the best ultimates you could probably have at this point in the game.
I like that Shu and Scooter are on different high grounds too, because whatever Flora does, it's only going to hit one of them. EMP drops from himself, and Shu Falls over. Snood was on the opposite high ground, so he lives for now. 5-on-4. New York Excelsior trying to still don't have high ground control, so Gladiators are just scouting to see where New York are, and New York can take Saloon and take some cover as Yaki presents himself on the cart to get maybe a few meters in, forces Glads to anchor it. Reiner eats the grab from Kellen, and that is a huge play for Glads. They even nanoed Reiner. Kellen's nanoed too. It's about trying to keep this mech from Reiner because it's not going to look good without it. Reiner's been demeched, and the Transcendence just to stabilize this defense. Glads are left with 9 seconds. This could be done.
Yeah, it looks like potentially another scenario where New York not able to finish off the game as they try and have Yaki go in, try and make a play for Reiner. It's going to have to get back on in touch, which does keep going overtime.
Kellen's back on the Doomfist. Floor is about to decloak from under Saloon to touch next, but they're actually killing things. Oh, the Bob is there. Yeah, the Bob is tanky and a problem. So New York will not be capping B, and Glads go to match point.
Which, like, this is a sad map for New York because they had opportunities on the defensive end. The Gladiators just showing kind of their kind of championship spirit, right? And like battling through really tough compositions that they're not playing the best against and not able to keep their supports alive, but still figuring a way to win.
I mean, 29-1 for Kevster with 16 final blows, most in the lobby. Like, he cannot be stopped, and that's why he's a nominee for MVP of the year. Make sure you cast your votes if you're a big fan of Glads. But for now, the fans should be rejoicing because Gladiators are on match point against New York Excelsior, and after this break, we'll find out if we're done or not. Y'all got your tickets yet? Playoffs going down in November, and we're going back to where it all began in LA. So tickets are on sale now. Playoffs going down November 3rd and 4th. So book that off your calendar. You can go to overwatchleague.com to get your tickets. Maybe get a chance to see the LA Gladiators and other teams.
Yeah, other teams, not New York. New York.
I was trying not to say it.
Yeah, you're like, oh yeah, the Gladiators. No, not New York. New York will have a few more opportunities for you to see them here online. New York, I tell you what though, if they played like how they did in Map 1, and then like, you know, if you close out some of these rounds, they probably could have been, you know, in the playoffs. Because they've had an opportunity to, like we were joking, like they could have actually like won this series already, like in an odd way. Like, you know, they're very close to taking Eichenwald. They have 2 opportunities to hold the Gladiators, one before point A, like getting a full hold, one before point B. They fail at both of those. They let the Gladiators take the map. And now they find themselves, you know, battling off the back foot here, where the Gladiators have a chance to close it out on New Queen Street.
And at least Gladiators are also overcoming their own challenges. Route 66 was the only map they've lost the stage, and it was to Florida, and kind of swapping up their comp, doing some Winston, then going back to Diva. And I think that allowed some flexibility to Reiner and kind of help himself. Because the double-digit deaths from Eichenwald, I wouldn't even like blame him and say that it was he did something wrong. It was just he's getting focused down by New York so much.
No, it's a brutal comp to play into. I mean, anybody would have been out there just, you know, with that type of stress and pressure on them with loads of deaths there. As we'll load into push. We'll get a chance for both teams. Like maybe we see the Zarya here out of New York. Do we see like some Winston maybe from the Gladiators? Do we see a Zarya? Like, do they try and keep playing the Diva into the Zarya? I think that's kind of like the biggest thing is like, what do we see from the Gladiators here for New Queen Street?
And I think both these teams haven't even gone to New Queen Street yet this stage. It's been all Coliseo, so I think New York have really settled on that brawly style with Kellen on the Zarya. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think it's, like you said, more about execution. But Gladiators could be trying to mirror that, and that's what's going to be interesting. Reiner not really known for his Zarya, but known as a flex god, you know?
It's not even like full-on execution. It's just they need like probably over the course of this series another like 1 minute of good execution, like over map 1 and over map 2 and 3. Really, like the difference in this game between this like we're being in this map and like, you know, being done with this series in New York with a huge upset is like basically a minute of good execution from New York, where the Gladiators just clutch up. It's be both teams kind of vying for position up here by the statue.
Oh. Well, you already had Happy try to hack New York's backline. He had to translocate out, and then New York, once that translocate happened, took that pseudo 5-on-4 and got immediately 2 kills. Now, Yaki tried to extend and farm more, got punished by Reiner, but you're still in the position that New York are pushing the bot now.
I think Yaki's face cam is up. Like, if we were doing like a face cam power rankings, I think like someone from Florida is like up there at the top because he has awesome celebrations. Yaki is up there as well. He always looks so surprised when he dies, regardless of position. I think it just shows you like how confident he is in himself that like he should almost like never die. Man, a few nice sleeps from Hot throughout this. And not even finish him off though.
3 HP. Oh, psych. We had you there, but yeah, Yaki, the way he just eyebrows wiggle, it's passive aggressive. I would cry if he just looked at me that way if I did something wrong. But he's chasing down Reiner, so he's being aggressive. Not passively, and Reiner doesn't want his energy reset, but Yaki doesn't want to go that deep.
Well, I mean, Yaki ends up getting 3 kills in the fight, and they end up winning it. It's like it's almost like how we talk about proper. It's like, can you win in that type of way with the shot, which they have for most of the season. But you know, again, some of the top teams here, you know, this tournament and this stage, it's been a little bit tough. Like, you know, putting a lot of pressure on Yaki to come up with these picks and play well. This series, he's played phenomenal, though. Oh, another pulse.
You're going to stick somebody there. It's just Shu. Good dodge from Skewed. Gets the bubble from Reiner. And not wanting to drop down yet. I thought, I'm surprised Yaki didn't want to commit more, but I think he counted both bubbles being used from Reiner. Decides to focus fire with the rest of New York onto Reiner, who had to go all the way around the corner. That's another good sleep. Yaki is surely dead. But New York, more pushing maybe?
Well, they end up getting the checkpoint, which is massive. They'll get a little bit past the checkpoint, even if they don't go a little bit further than this. They can back up. They have some good ultimates to continue this fight. And look, the first push opportunity they get that far. That is awesome for New York.
Yeah, 60 meters. One more fight, and they can even start pushing spawn. And Yaki wins the duel against Kebster. So have this 5-on-4. New York have top tunnel control, which is a great place to keep your supports. There's a mega pack on the other side too. Hell One maybe wanting to give that nano to Kellen if he's just going to have to sustain on that front line. Really depends on what situation the DPS are in too, but Glads are kind of letting this happen, waiting for their 5th member. And here's the flank at the back. Flora, EMPs, but it doesn't get anyone. I don't see anyone hacked. Not sure what happened there, but New York haven't died yet, so it's about just nanoing Kellen soon. And yeah, he was at half health, but Reiner gets nano too, but he gets woken up from getting slept. One's gonna write a stern letter in the morning about that. Happy EMPs. Excelsior are now losing some support. One has to heal everyone all by himself, and Kellen throws the grab to try and get the trades that New York needs, but one by one they fall, and it's only 2 left in New York to keep this going. They have to leave.
Well, they're going to get a little bit more progress out of this too, which is bonkers to say. Like, Kellen was so low, and I thought Gangnam Jin was going to use the Transcendence, but he ends up getting hacked right before it. And like you mentioned, Flora with another EMP did one on route, which didn't connect with anybody. That time, didn't see the scenario, but yeah, I agree with you. It didn't look like he got anything, which is not ideal.
Yeah, with just the One and Yaki, they got a little more push, and as soon as they see Glads, they run. Glads just wanted the full reset. Didn't want to just accidentally die to Yaki or something stupid. So Excelsior just stabilizing in the Mega Pack room, going to top tunnel, and Glads can bring back the bot in a neutral position and hoping to just draw New York down into this grab from Reiner. Gangnam Jin should have a response with the trans, and Flora's already executed Happy. Happy's back on the Ash. It's limited mobility, but consistent damage. But he got messed up on Route 66 because of that lack of mobility. Kevster hits an important pulse, though. Gangnam Jin has to make do with the Transcendence and the healing department. New York just fighting for this bot as it's back in the neutral position. Yaki starts hunting down Skewed on the Ana, but won't execute yet.
This is so chaotic. So Happy in a position where he's going to be just in like a one-on-one against Yaki and not going to win that.
Oh my god, does he do the 1v2? There was no mini there, or I don't know if he did, but either way, Yaki would have been a hero if he got that 1v2. Just killing the support, I think, was enough to just slow Gladiators down a bit. The bot's still at the neutral position, and Excelsior is still stalling it out. It's an EMP from Flora, hits the support of Glads, who aren't very threatened. They're full health up until this point, and that's because charged up Kellen is just trucking through the base. And New York are ahead, and they'll have bot control back.
This is going to be extremely difficult for the Gladiators to come back from. So 85 meters pretty much, you know, and counting for New York. Every time the Gladiators win a fight or two, they're going to have to battle to get the bot back to just the middle of the map. And New York, they can just play from these advantageous positions where, hey, look, they have the grab. They can kind of like wait and force the Gladiators into them. Really, you know, get close to finishing the map potentially.
Oh, Yaki is performing out of his mind today again. Just more Yaki stats for you. 14-3 with 10 final blows, compared to the 7-2, 3 final blows from Kevster. Again, this Tracer matchup is one that I like keeping track of because, you know, Kevster's touted as the MVP, but Yaki is right on his tail. Oh, the pulse! Waiting for the perfect moment after the bubble goes away to catch Happy. And I'm surprised he's still on the Ash. It feels like you need the Sojourn jump, or we haven't seen Happy mirror the Sombra at least go back to that. At least he'd be able to get away.
No, they keep going to the Ash. I think maybe to try and make it a little bit more dangerous to come in is that'll be the grab from Kellen. The Transcendence used by Shu, just not able to make it to be able to help out Reiner and co. As now the bot's going to still get going here for New York.
Yeah, through the Transcendence, Glad still lost 2 people, and now a 3rd one. They're getting staggered, and New York are back on the bot. It's at 84 meters. If it gets any deeper than that, I'm starting to worry if we're going into a game 5, because that is so much space that Glads have to make back with 3 minutes.
And the Glads, even if they lose this map, need to be pretty happy in the sense that, like, they're still in this series. Like, this is one where New York, over the course of it, it looked like, I think, the better team at times. Like, the Gladiators have clutched up at key moments, but New York has really played well today, and the Gladiators have somehow battled back and stayed in it all throughout. They'd have to be pretty happy just to see that Game 5 with the way this is going.
Yeah, this could be a game 5, and Glad's trying to keep their supports in the shelter of the gym. The Nano given to the front line. Glad's barely living, and that's an important pulse again from Yaki. Just so many final blows. Glads are missing 2, including one of their tanks. And the Bob is now gone. There is no protecting Glads at this point. Happy is in gym, and he could get staggered out if New York hit their shots right. See, Yaki is on the hunt on the other side. Happy should not, you'd hope he not get staggered out, but it's too late.
Yeah, as the bot will get moving kind of up this ramp here. You'll have an EMP, but like, where is Flora? Can Flora actually land this from a good position? Okay, so you see him in the screen there in that alley. Like, I think just waiting for maybe the supports to come out. Do you save it now? You're down Yaki? I think so.
Just like looking for the angle where he can hit both of them, because Shu and Speed have been positioning strategically to avoid not getting both EMP'd, so only Shu gets hacked by that EMP from Flora, and they don't kill him. Just Glad are kind of starting to dial back and actually peel for their backline, because Shu was hitting, I mean, I think double-digit deaths last game, and it's due to that focus fire from New York and those double flankers being back there, and New York are back on the bot.
And this is just like the worst type of scenario for the Gladiators. Like, they don't want to be fighting from this position. I mean, Happy over to the Sojourn now gives himself a little bit more of an escape, a little bit more kind of like mid-range damage. As Shu gets hacked, almost gets taken out there. So Reiner now over to the D.Va. So you see just searching for answers here.
I thought that stuck. There's a lot of white going on the screen with the skin and the snow and everything, but Glads are missing Kevster. I think it's 4-on-4. New York just really keeping the bot where it is. They don't have to extend into the Gladiator spawns. There's 41 seconds left. It's Glads that have had 2 meters this entire game. It's kind of like that slow start they had on Route 66, but surely at this point New York can't choke this. Like, it'd be impossible.
It would be very difficult. You never want to say impossible, because we've seen the impossible in a lot of situations, but this would be really difficult to give up, because they haven't even gotten the checkpoint yet. Like, we're not even close for the Glads. Like, they've gotten 2, like almost 3 meters here of progress. You're gonna need to win like 4 fights straight, maybe 3 if you're kind of like lucky. It'd be very difficult. This would be like a huge blunder by New York.
Oh, and even when the Matrix came out from Reiner, you go for the melee because you can't Matrix that. And Flora Yaki had the pinch maneuver. Skewed is dead. This is disaster for Gladiators. They don't have Skewed or Happy, and Reiner doesn't have a mech. You couldn't even get, they were at 2 meters, and they're barely able to even take a fight before the fight came to them. New York Excelsior will be forcing a game 5.
And the thing is can they close this series out? They've had really numerous opportunities with really looking at map 2 in map 3 to kind of shut the door on those, give themselves a nice lead in this series, and we're not able to do it. They dominate here on New Queen Street. Can they close out the Gladiators here in a game 5?
Kellen the Felon is what Gladiators call him, apparently. Had that insight of why felony was spelt that way. 10 final blows for Kellen, an absolute beast on the front line, finding a hero that really fits him. Surprisingly, even though he's a main tank, he's kind of popping off. So, we're going to game 5. Your pickups are done. We're done for now. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everyone. We're going into Game 5 between the Gladiators and New York Excelsior. Our #1 seed versus a team that hasn't made playoffs. And I'm starting to wish, man, they're just late bloomers, I think. It feels like their season is just ramping up now.
No, this has been their season. That's the problem. Is like they are more than capable on the day of playing, top level Overwatch. So yeah, I thought they would be like a top 8 team here in the West. But in an opportunity where they have chances to close a series out, in where they've been like, for this moment, I don't think they're the better team than Gladiators. Like, I don't even think that's up for discussion. But in like a snapshot of this series, they probably have been. And they're a fight on Eichenwald and, Route 66, like a few opportunities away from closing it out. And if you wanted to be a top team this season, those are the ones where you need to execute in those final moments and get it done. They have not been able to. And it's allowed the Gladiators, who's an incredible team, to hang around in this series and potentially steal it.
Now with that Funny Astro is being subbed in for Glads, you're going back to a Lucio Ana. Whenever Funny Astro is in, it's exclusively Lucio Ana for them. They really like that on really just any maps that they want to make quick rotations on and that they're constantly fighting in, whether controls or push maps is where you're going to see Funny Astro the most. And last time we saw Gladiators on Lijiang Tower was against Florida, and they brought out a whole bunch of different stuff. That was back when Reiner was playing a lot of Doomfist. They even had Reiner on Reinhardt on Control Center. But for now, we start on Gardens.
I was thinking maybe we do see them play some Reinhardt here, like a little bit of Rush. Maybe we get some Reaper in the mix, like a few opportunities here on Lijiang Tower to do so. At least for the start, it looks like they'll probably run Kevster on the Tracer, and they'll play kind of this aggressive dive, with the Winston main tank. Where New York, I don't think there's a reason to change anything up. You keep with the Zen Ana, you keep with the Zarya, and Yaki has been on fire all day long. No reason for New York to make any changes.
Okay, I was wondering if Glads were going to go for the Symmetra here for the initial teleport, because this first fight, every first fight of Control is so important. Defending a lot easier. You can snowball it from there if you win the fight. Funny Astro boop! What the rollout? He didn't get the Kellen boop. I swear he did. I think he even thinks he did.
Yeah, I think he may have thought he did, but Kellen was really close, and he gets punished right away. Discord hacked, just taken out. There goes Reiner. We've seen that when the Winstons played throughout this series, where the Discord and then you're just taken out with ease. So should be New York who's able to secure the point first.
Because the tanks have like less, or they have knockback resistance a little bit more, so maybe that contributed to it. So a sick roll up by Funny Astro just costed him and Reiner at the end, but would have been a fight winner if he pulled it off. But for now, New York are on the point.
Can they keep the Winston alive? They've had trouble doing that throughout the series. This time, had really nice collapse here, on the Gangnam Jin and Ho1, but it's going to be some trades here.
Especially after Reiner getting slept there. He's getting messed up again, having to deal with a Sombra and a Zen all over again. You got another Kevster versus Yaki matchup, but Kevster is obviously winning this one, so Glads will get the flip at around 35 for New York.
Flora gets on. He gets uncloaked. He'll get a touch. Don't think you're going to be able to get another one, though. So just gets him another, percentage point or two. So New York, you're able to get close to an EMP. Same with the Gladiators. So that time it was a really good collapse from the Gladiators onto the supports there for New York.
There's Yaki with a pulse bomb. Shu was on all the way on the other side. Funny Astro could be tough to stick. He is fast. And he starts the hunt onto Shu. The pulse from Yaki misses. Gangnam Jin's been nanoed to dodge the Kevster pulse bomb. And New York are able to clap back even harder. And wow, Gangnam Jin, okay. Nice. But New York flipped the point, back in the lead.
Yes, he gets Nano there, Gangnam Jin, to be able to survive some of the damage and the hack and whatnot that come on through. And Kellen's right there in that room as well. As when they try and collapse, they can't get the Zen. The Zarya starts to get charged off of those bubbles, and everybody starts falling.
Kellen is just spy checking. He's not crazy, we swear, but well, let's see what Flora's cooking back here at EMP as New York stomp forward and start burying Gladiators 6 feet under. That's another back-to-back fight for New York on their terms, too.
I just think you see like why it's so difficult to play Winston in this type of meta. It's funny Astro actually. Oh yeah, it's just unlucky. And I guess that doesn't show up as funny Astro just dying on his own because it says like a 2-player sound barrier there. It doesn't show up that way because there actually is damage done by EMP now, so it actually does register as a kill rather than environmental.
You definitely take that trade of an EMP for a sound barrier and a nano from Glad, so they managed to live, but can they win the fight? It's one-man advantage for Glads after losing Happy, and it's just Kevster with the usual cleanup. So, but it did take to 99% for New York, and it was New York that won the first control, so we'll see if Glads can make a big comeback here.
And New York's in a position where, look, there's a lot of ultimates available for the Gladiators. You know, they're going to get out to about 50% here. You know, by the time Yaki gets back, then the fights will really start to kick off. Can they defend the supports from Yaki landing a Pulse Bomb or killing both of them with the aid of Flora with the hack?
Oh. Seeing some ghosts. Oh. Landing any hack onto a Tracer is so deadly. He stops them from blinking for 2 seconds almost, and oh. That's a bummer. But Glad's just kind of hunkering down. EMP from Happy only hits Gundam Jin, and it's not a kill they can execute quite yet, but they're so low. Reiner really wants it. He'll even Primal. He's tossing up Callan in the corner. Surely he's dead. His energy's reset. And that's a big momentum killer for New York, especially playing on a Zarya. So Glads are starting to make that comeback.
Yeah, you needed that fight to go the Gladiators' way. No, once you start to use some of those ultimates with any chance to win this, because now Flora will come back. You'll have an EMP to use here. Flora's been pretty good throughout the series, although a little bit suspect the last 2 maps with some of these EMPs. I think he just needs to be able to just land it on the Shu. If you can just get Shu out of the fight. Pretty low on healing.
Flora's not even looking for an EMP. He's kind of chilling with the team. Thought he was going to want to set up behind, but Reiner's been nano, and the Gladiators are going to pull the trigger. They jump in into Flora's EMP, and Glads lose Reiner instantly, Shu as well. I mean, the burst potential is insane when you all get hacked like that. And New York maybe overstayed their welcome. They go back to the point to flip. It's 99% in their favor, and they're only missing Flora. Yaki, if he gets a stick, that'll be the end of the fight, but you poke down Funny Astro. Who's next to touch? It's Reiner on the Doomfist, and he doesn't miss being on that hero whatsoever. New York, Excelsior will take round 1.
1 round away from putting this series away. So yeah, like you mentioned, they nano Reiner and they send him in, but it's an EMP. They also nano Gangnam Jin during that, so you can't really make a play for the Zen, and it's just too much. You're not able to keep everybody alive through that for the Gladiators. So, you know, now they got to bounce back here with, you know, really they kind of have to be perfect all throughout. Where New York, you just got to keep playing the same type of game.
The fact that we're 1 map away, or 1 round away from New York, with a huge upset. First seed versus, I think, 10th seed or something like that. And New York, last time they were in Game 5, it was against Toronto, and they won it. Gladiators, I don't know what their map 5 percentage is, and I don't want to make anyone mad. Let's see, last time we went to control, it was round 3. Long rotations from Glads with the same dive. The Lucio to help them rotate. They already brought the main choke from New York. As Kellen is getting tossed around, he's already used a few bubbles. So they're really playing passive to heal each other up. Yaki tries to break through on the right side, allows Kellen to go through main as Gladiators' attention was split, but the cap is important, and Glads are going to head there first.
Yes, should be the Gladiators able to take this point first as hack on a Reiner. You see, as soon as the armor is gone, that's when he's like the weakest, as able to just burn him down pretty nice. Oh, that's a sick sleep there from Shu.
Yaki lives, and he just finds a stray Ana and stray 1 HP Lucio. Yaki is just getting gifted kills. But New York just have to flip this over. Kevster is alive, and I'm always scared when Kevster's alive, so Yaki has to go deal with that problem. He's recalling in and out of the point, just to extend the lead that the Glads have to about 25 until they leave.
And Flora does so much extra damage during that fight than Happy. You just see, like, almost near an EMP, like, almost doubling up Happy. I know, giving up that point first, it allows them to just be the more offensive team pushing into the Gladiators, which they've been better at all series long. No bubble there for Kellen.
Yeah, I'm surprised Kevster would want to go for that, considering you really have to make sure you count down the cooldowns of bubbles. EMP hits the supports of Glads, though, and you're trying to flip this on his head, even if Kellen is not here. As long as Ho1 is alive, you have a chance, you have some healing, and Glads have already left.
This is like what should have been New York season. Like, this is what they should have looked like. It almost tilts me a little bit. Like, this is like where they kind of could have reached. Is this will be an EMP as Ho1 just gets deleted. I mean, nothing there to be able to keep Kellen alive. As you'll be able to stall this out for probably a little bit longer, maybe, if you're New York. I'll see if Yaki and Co even want to do so now. But they get it through about 50%.
Happy with the jump scare of just EMPing right in front of an Ana. You prefer doing it behind her so you don't get slept as easy, but I'm sure Ho1 is shaking in his boots after that one. Is Fleur going to decloak to go after somebody here? No. Okay, so we have a nano from Shu onto Reiner, who's got the primal, hoping to just reset Kellen's energy after that fight when they just had. Got him to use the Transcendence. You got nano by Ho1. It's not the overlap you really want. It's not ideal for New York. They are in the middle of the map. Pulse misses from Yaki. A bit of a whiff. It's kind of New York style. A sound barrier from Glads to counter the Kellen grab. And surely we're all exhausted out of ultimates now. And Excelsior don't have any support. So this is won by the Glads.
That's a huge fight win for the Gladiators. That is the grab used in Transcendence by New York. Didn't catch if Ho1 actually used the nano during that fight or the previous one. But, I mean, that is it's a lot used there for New York. They have nothing to show for it, where the Gladiators have a prime opportunity to finish this off as they get rid of the Translocator. Now they want to go after Flora.
Flora will have to take a second. Glads also have control of the point. Kind of starting to surround New York, try to cut off their rotations. Kevster, misses the pulse. It looked like it was going to stick. But man, this backline of New York is looking not so healthy. Ho1's trying his best. Glads just bunker down on the point. They know that's where the New York Excelsior want to go, but this exposes New York's backline as Glads went back to the point. So Shu is not there, and neither is Kevster. Yaki wins that duel. Happy's translocated back towards Mini, and Yaki's on the hunt to try and see where he is, stop him from escaping, and at the very least, New York flip.
And this is probably going to come down to one fight. You're going to have the Gladiators, who don't really have much of anything to work with right now. You know, maybe you end up investing nano into this. Maybe you end up getting your EMP. But you're at the point of the game where New York's got some ultimates to combo. They could extend this like a 99-99. You don't have a speed boost here now. Yeah.
It's not like a huge deal. At least you still have Shu there, which is a lot of healing, but only solo target healing. So you nano Reiner to see if you can get that equal trade, and you do. Ho1 tries a nano one. I don't know if he got canceled, and that surely did. Flora tried to EMP, and I think he got hacked or something because he's still alive. This is spaghetti on the floor from both sides early. But Glads focusing on flipping the objective. They're so close to being there, but New York are there to deny it. Kellen gets hacked. Happy with the EMP. Kellen throws the grab to stop Glads from stomping them into the floor. But as the cards fall on the table, Gladiators are on top of this fight and on top of this round. And just like the first time, the first map ever, Glads will be sending us into round 3.
Yes, that is a back and forth where that EMP there from Happy was huge. Kellen not able to use the bubbles, got the grab off, but still the sound barrier from Funny Astro just keeps everybody alive. They're able to push on through. So that one is as close as it can get. What's interesting is now we can see the more interesting compositions. Yeah, where the Gladiators look to be trying to maybe play a little bit of a rush here.
Yeah, last time the boys of Glads were on this map, it was a Reinhardt, May, Sojourn, Lucio, BAP composition against Florida, which they ended up winning. And that was some old school stuff, and it's going to make my brain hurt to say Reiner on Reinhardt, but we'll get through it. And it's the same recipe here again.
So we'll see what New York's response is. So Yaki on the Reaper, I like this. Reaper Sojourn, interesting. I thought like maybe we see like a, you know, even like Reaper Sombra, I think could be pretty good. Reaper Genji, right? But the Reaper with the Sojourn, so in combination with a Zarya, so you want to really allow Yaki to be that frontliner with the bubbles and get aggressive. I just think he has to be so careful with the Mei, the Reinhardt, and the Batiste on the other side.
It's going to be hard for Yaki to flank too. You're going to get booped by a Lucio. A lamp could drop down from Shu. He drops it now, actually, after an anti-nade from Ho1 got thrown into the Glad space as they try and re-engage in. Play off the Mei wall from Kevster. Didn't get the isolation they wanted. They've lost Happy, and that's your primary source of damage. So New York will win the first fight, and that's always good on Control Center with how tight these chokes are.
Yeah, and Reaper can be really difficult to deal with on this point. One of the points that even when Reaper's not necessarily super strong in the meta, just with how the map is and the point and how close it is. Reaper can still be really effective. Just kind of like Control Center as a whole, like even like negates things like a Pharah or an Echo, really, with how low the ceilings are.
Yaki forced back, Gladiators with server control just to have a safe place and also access to the backline of New York if they ever needed to. Server's such an important position. Now the Amp Matrix to spray down Flora, and that's an insta kill for Glads. A good nade from Ho1 hits Reiner and maybe forces him to slow down a bit. Just kidding, he just charges in. Kellen is also nanoed at 100 charge. He's a threat, but only has an ice block in his way, so not something that New York can actually kill. So that'll be Glads flipping the point, getting some stagger kills here too.
So now let's see if we have any swamps from New York. They do have the sound barrier and that speed boost to be able to get on through this choke, because they're going to need it, because that Mei wall is going to probably come into effect. The Blizzard as well. Nothing to really block that shatter. See if they can put that pressure on a Reiner yet again, though, with this Reaper.
Yeah, there's a fun little momentum swing you can do if you want to catch someone off guard. Some fun tech, but he just decides to surprise him there. A Wraith and a Bubble. New York unaffected. A defensive Mei wall comes up from Excelsior to protect Reiners. They re-engage with the sound barrier of Funny Astro. And this Death Blossom ain't get nothing because of that support ultimate. So Kellen throws the grab as plan B, and Yaki just funnels all the damage in that. Glads tried to throw a Blizzard defensively, and it really didn't stop the pain train that is New York. Once Funny Astro is dead, New York are back in the driver's seat.
Somehow Yaki able to live through all of that. We watch it from his POV as able to get rid of Shu's immortality field, then able to use the Wraith form to get behind, put some extra damage down. And a lot used there by the Gladiators. They ended up investing their own Shatter, Sound Barrier in Blizzard, so not going to have some of those big ultimates here. The overclocks may be the key. That's a Nano Reaper.
Yaki's getting bubbled. They really believe in him, and he's sure a good distraction for Flora's overclock that's on an off angle, so Glads are getting counted from multiple sides, and there's just nothing they can really do except run away. And Excelsior in a commanding lead and a few fights away from taking the map.
I was so confused there for a second because Flora had the overclock rolling. He had Reiner basically at 1 HP. And he had 100% energy, and he was using the primary fire instead of firing the right click, like right in through the shield and piercing it and killing him. But ends up working out for them in the long run anyway.
Oh, happy. That's a good headshot, but Flora does the same thing. So Glads are only ahead by 1, but they don't have Shu, so you have limited heals, but you do have speed, which can catch New York off guard. Kellen's going to get beat to death, and his energy reset. And that's maybe a momentum killer for them. We'll have to see. 95+% for New York, and it'll be the flip for Glads. Oh my god, they almost booped them off before overtime. That would have been so funny. Either way, Glads are okay for now.
Yeah, New York will able to back out. They hit 99%. And you kind of look across the board and say, oh, well, what do you have to work with here? The Blizzard yet again here for the Gladiators. New York gets inside, doesn't allow the Gladiators to push on up, play close, so that's kind of good for New York. It's just they're walking into some pretty tough ultimates here. Maybe try and play
Reiner's
for
access to the
back
backline. Yeah, but you have to time it with the bubbles too. I mean, you don't want to hit the Reaper because Yaki, it's pretty easy for a good Reaper to just Wraith out of it if you have the reaction time and you're not on ping. And then you have to worry about bubbles. So Reiner doesn't want to be crazy about this. Somehow you just hit a random shot onto Yaki as he was just trying to cross down the staircase. And now you just go for a free shatter on the backline. And that's a big investment for Glads, but it's the last fight, so it doesn't really matter. New York, do they have anyone that can touch the point?
Touch?
That's just how the series ends, just like how you predicted it, the prophet of Overwatch, Mr. X, saying this is very New York, how the series ends. The LA Gladiators remain undefeated, but pushed all the way to a Game 5.
So it looked like they were trying to set up for Ho1 to get the nano. They got it, and then as soon as they got it, Kevster's able to find a pick on a Yaki, I guess like with a right click or something. And they get absolutely nothing. They kind of like wait for all these ultimates. They give out like 20-30%, and it all amounts to nothing as the Gladiators come out on top in this series. So this is tough for this is a tough one for New York. Obviously, the Gladiators win, but they got pushed to the limit today. We kind of saw what really bothers this team today, and I thought New York, really gave them a lot of problems over the course. I mean, it's just crazy. This series ends that way. I mean, that is just kind of like, a 5-map explanation of New York's season.
The New York's potential, like the desk have said, I'm going to say it one last time because I've been bent on saying it, the talent is there.
It clearly was there.
Always there. All the time.
It was there today, like what, 85% of the time? I mean, it was there. It's just in those moments that they need to be coordinated, they need to clutch up, and they need to play right. It always seems to just not go their way for whatever reason, whether it's an EMP that gets nothing. It's let's kind of give up 20% to farm these ultimates and then just die. It's just not. Just some moments they just fall a little bit flat.
And just Yaki with double-digit final blows every map, to popping off to being the first death in the last fight of the round 3 game 5. It's just New York style. I know a lot of teams have had that storyline, but they performed well today. But there's one player that stood above the rest. Your player of the match. You know who it is. The MVP nominee. Here it is. It's Kepster, of course.
Yeah, he was really, in the maps that the Gladiators won, he was really good on the Tracer. Like, I actually don't think he was probably, like if you looked at, like, just over the course of the series, I actually thought Yaki, like, was probably the better of the 2 Tracers today. But in the moments that mattered, where they needed the clutch plays to be made, Kevster stepped up in a big way. And then, like how you just mentioned, he actually starts off that final fight with that first pick. I mean, it's massive, where New York is, taking a long time getting these ultimates together. Kevster just shuts that down before it even begins.
Yeah, even on the Mei, he was getting like these random icicle kills on Control Center. Like, it's cool to see Kevster truly flex, and just the importance of having an incredible Tracer this meta, and why Gladiators are back on top, continuing to be undefeated. They were in 3rd seed. I'd have to see the standings after that. But I think it's London and Houston that are on their tail for top 3, and top 3 automatically go to playoffs. So Glads, I think with this win, may affect their map diff, but at least are more secure in their position.
And I think it's a good win for the Gladiators. It's also good that they're tested, right? That they have these close matches, that they deal with some adversity, because what you saw in the Summer Showdown was, like, times got tough and they just kind of, like, crumbled a little bit, where you need to see them if they're going to be a team that goes to the playoffs and battles through that grueling, like, bracket and makes it all the way to the end. You're going to have some tough moments, some really tough games. So to see them win a series today, where probably over the course of the entire series they did not really play better, but they came up clutch, I think that's huge if you're the Gladiators and a Gladiators fan to see.
Oh yeah, just correct. Top 6 go to playoffs. It's just top 3 seeds. So important to be having a better seed, having a better, easier opponent, I should say. But Glaz looking good, and I know everyone's like, oh, Reiner, Rookie of the Year, after choking on Junker Queen. But look at him now, just going on to almost every single tank. Like, Glaz are truly flexible and can still perform no matter what the circumstances are, including a Game 5. So congratulations to the LA Gladiators. We have more Overwatch matches around the corner. Up next is Washington Justice versus the Atlanta Reign. Both teams who have clutched up when it mattered the most, speaking of that. But we'll have an interview with the LA Gladiators after this break with Danny and the Watchpoint desk, so you won't want to miss it.
Oh, nice.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Upper Deck, the official trading card of the Overwatch League. And by TeamSpeak, the official voice supplier of the Overwatch League.
Welcome to Game Break, everybody. We have a special guest here today for the post-match interview. We have Coach Smash from Los Angeles Gladiators. Coach Smash, how are you doing? And of course, hi. 자, 일단 인터뷰 시작하기 전에 인사 한 말씀 부탁드리겠습니다. 아무래도 우리 코치님 어떻게 보면 이렇게 경기 후 인터뷰 처음이기 때문에 인사 한 말씀 부탁드릴게요.
네. 안녕하세요. 저는 글래디에서 어시스턴트 코치를 하고 있는 스매시라고 합니다.
Hi everybody, my
Hello,
name is Smash. Yeah, go ahead. 죄송합니다. Go ahead. Yes, English. 영어로도 한번 해주세요.
I work for Gladiators. I'm assistant coach and yeah. Sorry.
All right, assistant coach Smash from Los Angeles Gladiators. I mean, yeah, you guys did get the win. I guess, of course, big congratulations. But I do feel like this was a very close match, and I feel like New York definitely gave you guys a run for your money. So I want to ask you, Smash, like, what were some of the problems that the Gladiators had coming into this match or playing this match? 오늘 일단 승리 축하드리면서 경기는 승리로 끝나서 당연히 좋은 거지만은 그래도 어떻게 보면 뉴욕이 또 굉장히 좋은 모습을 보여주면서 좀 어떻게 보면 좀 힘든 승리라고 생각이 됩니다. 어떻게 코치님 오늘 경기를 보시면서 좀 오늘 어떤 문제점들이 이제 글래디 쪽에서 좀 보였나요?
일단은 저희가 자리아 손브라 트레이서 젠 아나 조합을 상대로 연습을 해본 적이 없던 게 일단 제일 큰 어려움이었다고 생각을 하고요. 제가 3인칭으로 봤을 때는 윈스턴으로 되게 할만해 보였는데 이제 뭔가 좀 힘들다는 콜이 나와서 이제 상황에 맞게 전략을 수정하는 식으로 갔던 것 같아요.
All right, so I think the biggest, I guess, problem for us was that New York were running the Zarya double flex support, and it was honestly something that we have never practiced against. So when the matches were playing out, I, along with me and also our coaching staff, we thought the Winston composition that we ran could be viable, and we thought that it was going to work, but it actually didn't. So we had to sort of change our strategies as the series progressed. So what were some of the changes that you guys made? Of course, like you said, the Winston seemed viable to you guys and it didn't work out. So what were sort of the specific changes that you guys had to make throughout the series? 방금 말했다시피 어떻게 보면 처음에 윈스턴 조합이 이 자리아 이제 투 서빌 어떻게 조합의 상대로 생각보다 괜찮을 거로 예상을 하셨지만 그게 아니었잖아요. 그래서 어떻게 보면 경기를 진행을 하면서 좀 어떻게 좀 조정을 하셨나요? 좀 중점적으로 본 게 있었나요?
네, 일단은 뭔가 그 루시우가 없는 다이브 조합으로 되게 상대 자리아가 뒷라인만 보면서 케어하면서 받아치기만 해가지고 이제 마지막 맵 들어가기 전에 진짜 더 찍어 눌러보자는 생각으로 준비했던 것 같아요. 그냥 루시우까지 넣고 과감하게 다이브하는 조합으로 가자고 얘기했던 것 같아요.
Alright. So I think as the series progressed, and we did sort of try to utilize that Winston dive composition, and what we changed was that we put in the Lucio, the funny Astro, and instead of sort of being scared, by adding the Lucio and sort of trying to control more of the tempo, we wanted to actually go even more aggressive and go sort of all in on the Winston dive. So I think that was sort of our answer to the Zarya double flex support that we saw from New York Excelsior. I also think that New York, I think the biggest or the hardest part for Los Angeles Gladiators today was also the Yaki, I guess, Flora, the New York Excelsior DPS lineup. They were sort of the biggest problem that I saw that you guys had to deal with. So as the coach of the Gladiators, were there any sort of tips or anything that you communicated with the players, I guess, to sort of not counter, but to sort of like to make the game easier for Gladiators to sort of counter or to fend off the DPS lineup for New York Excelsior. 자, 두 번째 질문은 오늘 이제 제가 봤을 때는 이제 야키랑 플로라 선수가 좀 굉장히 제일 글래디 팀을 좀 제일 힘들게 한 어떻게 보면 선수들이라고 생각을 하는데 이 두 선수를 어떻게 보면 견제하기 위해서 좀 코치로서 어떤 이렇게 조언이나 아니면 좀 어떤 얘기가 좀 오갔나요?
사실 저는 그러니까 그 친구들을 견제한다기보다는 우리도 같이 죽여야 된다는 생각이긴 하거든요. 그래서 저는 뭔가 더 공격적으로 이제 상대 뒷라인을 괴롭히면서 게임을 풀어가길 바랬는데 이제 뭔가 자리아의 주방에 한번 막히고 이제 그러다 보니까 포기하고 이제 우리가 백라인 가는 거를 포기하는 순간부터 저는 게임이 졌다고 생각하거든요. 그 같은 미러 매치업일 때. 그리고 오늘 아이엠발드도 그렇고 다 정말 운이 좋아서 이긴 것 같습니다.
Alright. I think the short answer was, there was definitely. 네.
그리고 솔직히 해피 캡스터가 더 무서워요 저는. 플로라
해피 뭐가 더 무섭다고요?
해피 캡스터가 더
해피 캡스터가 더 무섭다?
견제할 필요가 없어요. 그냥 저희가 더 가서 죽이면 돼요. 네.
Alright. So I think of course Yaki and the Flora duo, DPS duo were definitely were scary, but my short answer is Happy and Kepster duo were better, and they were even more scarier than the Yaki Flora duo. As for the Yaki and Flora DPS duo, instead of sort of fending them off, what I thought was the best answer was to go even more aggressive because they were pretty aggressive. So we wanted to counter that even more by sort of diving into their backline. But of course, it sort of at times didn't work out because of their Zarya composition and sort of their bubbles to their backline sort of prevented us to attack our backline. So we had to sort of give up attacking the New York Excelsior's backline, and so that was sort of our downfall. But at the end of the day, the Kepster Happy duo, I guess, were a lot more scarier than the Yaki Flora duo that Danny mentioned. All right, last but not least, my last question is, in this stage, or not even this stage, I think even in today's match, Los Angeles Gladiators, you guys had a lot of different competition. We saw Ryan Rush, we saw the Diva competition, and of course the Winston as well. What do you think defines Gladiators color, I guess, or playstyle for the Countdown Cup? 자, 마지막 질문입니다. 이번 스테이지뿐만 아니라 요즘 들어서 좀 굉장히 많은 다양한 조합을 선보이고 계신데 좀 글래디만의 특별한 색깔이 있다면 이번 카운트다운 컵에서 뭐가 있을까요?
저희 팀 색깔은 레이너에 의해서 좀 약간 좌지우지 되는 것 같아요. 레이너 선수가 그 많은 영웅을 소화해주기 때문에 그 친구가 픽을 바꿈에 따라서 저희는 탱커에 따라서 픽을 조합하는 걸 제가 선호하기 때문에 그래서 레이너한테 항상 미안하고 진짜 그 숙련도가 떨어질 텐데도 불구하고 되게 감사한 마음을 가지고 있어요. 물론 모든 선수들한테 감사하지만 그 친구가 제일 많은 영웅을 하기 때문에.
Okay, I think Los Angeles Gladiators color really depends on Reiner. I think our color is whatever Reiner is playing, and we sort of build our team or build our composition around Reiner. Because Reiner is able to play so many different heroes, I think that is our color. I do also feel